Hello and welcome to erpwebtutor.com. This is Rory Deep, and we are back again with one more video tutorial session covering form personalizations. This is the first part of the form personalizations tutorial. This tutorial is absolutely hands-on about the practical scenarios that we're going to tackle by using form personalizations and in any Oracle environment. I would recommend that you should go through the overview of form personalizations, which is posted on our website, before you actually start doing your form personalizations or before you go through this hands-on document or this training. So just go through the overview. It's good to know what you're doing and why you're doing before you actually do that. So just go ahead and do that. And if you have done that, let's get started. So this is going to be a 5 practice session using form personalizations. We have different scenarios, and here we are trying to cover like 5 different cases which we can resolve using form personalizations. The first thing is changing the prompt of a field. So this is a very common request that keeps coming from the users. So Oracle, being a packaged product, comes with its own fields and prompts, and it can so happen that the client is so used to calling a field with a different name so that they would like to have that same prompt like move over from their existing system to their new Oracle system. So they want the same prompt because their users are so much used to seeing that prompt when they're entering the data. So that prompt can be anything on any field. It can be in different modules. But in this case, we have just prepared a test case of the marital status field or the status field on the employee screen. So as you can see in this document that how it looks without any changes. The status, which is the marital status, is just displayed as status as the prompt. So let's go into Oracle and see what it is. So let's open here. I have my test employee. And see, this is the status. This is actually meant by, this is actually the marital status of the employee, but it just says status. So it might be kind of misleading for some clients because they might want to be more explicit, saying, okay, it's the marital status and not the veteran status or not the visa status. So they might say, okay, can we have it as the prompt as marital status? So let's see what we're gonna do here. In this video, actually, we have all the setups preset. We are only trying to go through the setups, and once we will enable those changes, and you will see that how the things are changing. We'll try to explain why we have done what we have done. So for personalization, for personalizing any field or any form, we need to be on that form, and then we need to go to help, diagnostics, custom code, personalize. So it looks a long navigation, but once you do it, it's gonna get used to that whole thing. It's a piece of cake. So this is our first case where we are trying to change the prompt for marital status. So the trigger event is when new form instance. So this is a simple requirement, is that the form is going to be changed throughout the organization. There is no restriction. So from every different responsibility, the users that open the form, they're going to see the same prompt. So there is no restriction or there is no level at which this personalization is being defined. So the trigger event is going to be when the new form instance. So you need to have some background of like a little bit of technical background, even though the form personalizations are mostly done by the analysts, the business analysts. So over a period of time, they have some exposure, some expertise in some of the basics of the technicalities in Oracle. So most of the time, they just do it themselves. But again, we will see that at some point, it actually, even though it's the intended functionality of form personalization is to enable or empower the business analysts with the changes before, which we had to heavily rely on the developers by changing the custom PLL. With 11.5.10 becomes a lot easier, and the business analyst can take care of these changes. So let's see. So this is the first thing. So you define your description of the personalization. So this is just put a sequence number, put a description, something meaningful, and the trigger event is when new form instance. And now let's go to the actions. Now we have a sequence number. The property is the type, and this we have different types of property, different types here. So right now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to change the value of one field. So we're trying to change the property of a field. So the prompt is actually the property of the field. So that's why we select the type as a property. So if we are trying to change the message or we're trying to display message, it's going to be message. So let's take things one piece at a time. So right now it's property. Of course, the object type is item. Now the target object is actually the object that you're trying to change. So how will you know what's the object? So the first thing that you need to do is you need to when you're on the screen, you click on the field that you're trying to personalize and click help, diagnostics, examine. So once you do that, it's going to give you the block of the form and the field name of the form. So this is the field name that is being displayed. So any change, anything, any personalization that you're trying to make is going to be on this field. So we know, okay, D marital status is the field that we're trying to change. So let's now we can go back to our personalization form. So once we select the item, so what we have to do is we have to select the, let's say we know that now it's D underscore marital underscore status, right? So, okay, so we got it. So what's the property we're trying to change? It's the prompt. So here you'll see all different kinds of property. So you'll get familiar with these properties. I would say, like most of the time you're going to use some of the basic properties like the property required, the prompt, displayed, enabled. Sometimes you want to change the list of values for a field, the list of values. So those are the ones that you're going to use most of the time. Most likely you're not going to use all of these in your entire Oracle career. So if you want to know what those mean, it's good. But again, like I said, you can learn as you work. So that's how you keep learning. So this is the property that we're trying to change, the property name. And as per the client's requirement, we have to say, okay, we have to explicitly say, okay, the value of the prompt is marital status. So that's exactly what you're doing. You're changing the prompt from status to marital status. So, and once we have this, we save it. And right now it's all saved. We just need to enable this. So right now it wasn't enabled. So we enable it, save it. Now we need to go out of this form in order to see the effective changes. So now let's go back to the form again. And let's search for whatever, and we can see the prompt changed from status to marital status. So this is how you change the prompts for a field. So let's go back to our tutorial where we have our next practice. So you can definitely go back to this tutorial anytime. This will be posted on the website. So when you're doing practicing or you're doing a real scenario, just keep it for your reference. Okay, so now the next practice is to make a field required. So again, this is a very arbitrary test scenario. Your scenario would be different, like from different clients, it will be different scenarios. But all we are trying to teach you is how you actually make a field required. So you have to identify the field, and you need to know what property that you need to work with, or what property of that field you need to change. So once you know that, you should be able to change this property in any form for any field. So in this case, in our example, we have chosen the field called nationality, which is on the people screen. We are trying to make the nationality mandatory. So we're trying to make it required. So right now, if you see, the nationality is, the field is like white color. That means it's not required. So all these yellow fields are, that means they are required fields. And the nationality right now, it's white. That means it is, I mean, by white, I mean it's white color field background. So that's a white color field. That means it's not required. And our goal is to make it required. So again, the same path, diagnostics, custom code, personalize. Like before, we already have it set. It's just not enabled. And let's see what we have done. So what you're doing is we're trying to make the nationality field mandatory. So this is our personalization. Sequence number 70, make nationality mandatory. Again, this is happening in the new form instance. And let's go to the actions. Again, we're trying to change the property of a field. That's why we have the type as property. The object type is again item. It's one item on the field. So we're trying to change a property of that item. The same way we find the target object, we're going to click on that field. So once you do it a couple of times, you should be used to it. So you click on that field, make sure you be on that field, otherwise you'll be misled. So by default, whichever field you are on, it's going to display the information for that field. So you have to be on the nationality field, help, diagnostics, examine. The name of this field is nationality. So you know that. And one more thing, the block is the person. So the field is identified as a block dot field name. So you can have the same field name in multiple blocks. So you make sure that you have the right block and the field combination. So let's go back to this form. So we know it's a person block dot d_personality, d_nationality. The property that we're trying to change is the required property. So this field, it has to be required, and we are trying to make it true. So the required property is going to be true. So if the required is false, that means it's not required. So if required is true, that means it's required. So we have it set up. So let's now just enable it and save it. So once we save it, we need to get out of this form to see the changes. Let's go back in again, and let's do nothing and just see this field. Now it has become yellow. That means this is a required field. So we have changed this field from non-required to required. Let's go back to our document and see what we have as our test tree. The test tree is to hide a field. Now in this example, again, this is absolutely an arbitrary case. You can have your own scenario where the client doesn't want to see certain fields that they don't use. So this mostly happens when there are, like Oracle being a packaged product, comes up with so many fields, trying to cater to different clients across different industries. And then you end up with all those fields that a particular client doesn't want to use. So in this scenario, we are trying to go to the people assignment, and we have a field called collective agreement. In our test case, we want to hide this field. So again, let's take a look at the field, what field this is. It's the block ASSGT, and the field is agreement name. So now we know that. You can just take a note. Diagnostics, personalize, and this is our test scenario. So you can try to hide the agreement field. Again, the trigger is when new form instance, because if you have to have some background of triggers it's just good to have. If you know those trigger events, it just makes your life so much easier. Oracle comes up with all these predefined triggers. You can, like they said, you can enter additional event names. Sometimes you can enter whatever trigger name you want. It just doesn't work because there are some limitations on the different kinds of trigger events that you can actually fire. Which do get fired. If those triggers doesn't get fired, your personalization won't take any effect. So in order for whatever changes you are making, this trigger event has to fire, and only then it's going to see what actions you have, and then it goes to the actions and does all those actions and displays the screen in front of you. So you can have a trigger which doesn't fire. So even if you have like 10 different actions trying to do all kinds of changes, you will not see them. So you have to make sure that the trigger that you're trying to use for your personalization gets triggered, or fired when some action, the form opens or you navigate from one field to another. So whatever changes you're trying to make. So let's, in this case, it's when new form instance, which is when the form opens. So at that point of time, you want to make the collective agreement field invisible to the users. So see what we have in the actions. So it's one field. So it's property, object type is item, and the object is agreement name. The property is displayed, and the value is false. So value is the value of this property. So the property is displayed and the value for this displayed is false. That means not displayed. So now let's enable that. Let's save it. And again, let's get out of this form and get back in again. So let's go to assignment. And as you can see now, it's the collective agreement which was appearing here is gone. So we have successfully made a field hidden on a form. Now let's go back to our document and see what we have as our practice 4. Now practice 4 is actually hide or disable a tab. Now we have to realize some certain thing here. We're just trying to keep this tutorial a little short, and we will definitely try to teach as much as possible. Now, in this scenario, what we're trying to do is like a workaround for some changes requested by the client. Now, let's assume we have this screen for assignment, and it has a tab called salary information. So where you can see the salary basis, salary review, so all those salary related information, and then you have the salary button. Now the client's requirement is to remove, they don't want their users to see the salary information from the screen. They might have different responsibilities from which they don't want, in certain responsibilities they want the salary information to be visible, and so that the super users or the top level HR folks can enter the information and view them. But in some other responsibilities, they just don't want the users to have access to the employees' salary information. So they might say, okay, can we hide this salary information tab, or just make it, just so that the users, the regular users, are not able to access any information pertaining to the salary. Now, there are some, it's a little tricky on how you actually hide a tab. So there are like a lot of complications. You have to see how many fields are on the tab, what are the previous navigation item on for the first field on the tab, and what's the last item of navigation on the tab. So it can become really tricky, and even after a lot of changes, you may not be able to achieve uh, what you're trying to do of hiding a tab. And since it's a long process, so a quick solution for that would be to disable the tab. It serves the same purpose, and it's much faster. So our goal is to prevent the users from accessing this tab. So let's go back to our personalized form. Excuse me. So this is there are two requirements basically here. The first one says you have to hide the tab, and also a part of it is to remove the salary button, because that's where your salary screen opens. So you have to remove that salary button from your form as well. Otherwise, your work is not complete. So this is the tab to disable, and this is the button to hide to complete the whole process. So let's try to disable the tab first. So this is the personalization that's going to take care of disabling the tab. So again, the new form instance is our trigger event. Our action is again property. Now property of this time it's a tab page. It's not an item. You can, when you do it, you can see what are the different object type that are available for your changes. So in this case, we are trying to change the property of an object, which is a tab page. So that's why our object type is a tab page. Now, once we select tab page, it's going to give me all the tab pages that are part of this form. So now we see that, okay, the salary is the one we are trying to change. So it's assignment tab canvas dot salary. So this is our intended or target object that we're trying to change. And what's the property? We are trying to disable it. So our property name is enabled, even though we have a property called displayed. You will not be able to achieve what you're trying to get. Even if you say the displayed property as false, which should work, it doesn't work that easily. So you have to make a lot of changes. So make sure when you're trying to hide a tab, if you're trying to save time, go this route. Make the enabled property false. So even if they will see that there is a tab that exists, they will not be able to access that tab. So that's what we're doing here. We are making this enabled property false. So let's enable this whole personalization and save it. And also we will do the other one, which is hiding the salary button. Now for this, now there is a trick for this. Now all the personalization that we were doing in the past, or in the beginning of this tutorial, the trigger event is that we were using was when new form instance. Now here, if you see that we are using when new block instance. Now why is that? Now we need to know that what trigger gets fired, right? Now when you open this form, you close and everything, you just open this form, and you see that just ignore this, and you see what's happening. Okay, so you have, and you go to the assignment, which is a different block of this form, and that's where you're trying to make the change. But by the way, we already see that the salary information tab has been disabled. So you notice this part. So this part is done. We need to make changes to the salary button. We need to hide that. Now let's see what happens if we make it at the form level. Let's go back to our personalization form and hide salary button, which now says when new block instance. So when new form instance, if we save it and enable it, let's see what happens. Let's close, and let's come back here. assignment, you see that the salary screen or the salary button is still displayed. Now that's, I mean, if we had made it disabled, it would have worked. But when we are coming into this into this screen, it's a different block. So that when new form instance or some other trigger has already fired and it has overwritten whatever we did in the new form instance. Now we have to know that what trigger is getting fired, at what point we need to capture this change. So we have to know, okay, when we are coming to this assignment screen, definitely the when new block instance is being fired. So if the new form instance is not working, so some other trigger is being fired that is overriding my when new form instance trigger. So, I mean, if you have worked on forms, you will know that the triggers are actually the way the triggers take precedence is the form is at the highest level. So, and then the block, and then the item. So if you have a trigger on the form and the block and the item, the trigger on the item is going to take the highest priority. So in this case, something is happening on this block that is not letting, or that is overriding the changes that I have made at the form level trigger, which is the new form instance. So we have to try and use a different trigger. So you know what, this form personalization involves a lot of trial and error method. You have to keep practicing, and then you'll find out, you know, what trigger is being fired. So those kind of knowledge will come with time and experience. So now, like, that's why I had it at the block level. So once you select the when new block instance, you will have all the blocks, and we know that this is the assignment block, and the condition gets enabled. So the condition is enabled. We don't have any conditions. So all these personalizations that we're trying to do does not have any special condition. You can have different conditions, and also in our part 2 we will have personalizations where we will have condition based personalizations. So you mean, you know, the trigger, and then it sees, okay, what's the trigger object, and then it looks at the condition. So if the condition is satisfied, this whatever actions you are trying to call from this trigger is going to fire. So right now there's no condition, so let's save it. So if you see here again, the property is the type is property, the object type is item, and the target object is the button. So now again, how did I find the target object? You have to say, you know, you have to look for salary and see what is there. So once you do that, you have to go through, there's these different items that are available, and you have to come up with the one that looks to be right. So once you see that, okay, so this looks right. So okay, let's use that, and the property is displayed and the value is false, so it's not displayed. So let's save it again. Now let's get out of this form and get back in. So this is our employee number. Now let's go to assignment. Boom, it's gone. Our salary button is no longer displayed. That means our new block instance is working fine. So again, like I said, this whole idea of form personalization involves some amount of speculation. So you have to keep trying, and, you know, trying different possibilities or different approaches to achieve what you are actually trying to change. So just keep an open mind and keep looking. And if it doesn't work in the first shot, try a different route. It will work. So that's about the 4th practice session, or the 4th practice test. The last one is again a very popular one, or commonly used one, most often required by the clients. And we have our example here is changing the LOV associated with the column. So let's go to our example scenario where we have a responsibility system administrator. Let's say we are trying to add responsibilities to some user. So we query for the user, we go to the responsibility and we say add new responsibility. We have this list of values, this tiny dots beside the field indicates that there is a list of value. So we go in here and let's do a wildcard search. So we search for it. It's showing me like 1,325 responsibilities that I can assign. So now again, this is a very hypothetical test scenario. The objective is to reduce or customize this list of values that are appearing in this list. So, I mean, in our case, the hypothetical situation that I came up with, where I said, okay, let's say we have a client and they have an IT support team who are responsible for assigning or revoking responsibilities from the users. So now this is a support team, not an analyst team, not a developer team, not a DBA team. They are just, like lots of users adding responsibilities on request, removing responsibilities. Now, what if they assign system administrator to a developer, right? So he or she can have unlimited access and you can do do things which are not supposed to be done by them. So there has to be some restrictions on what kind of responsibilities that IT support team can add to the users, especially in the production environment. So in order to do that, in our case, what we have done is we have created another responsibility called custom sysadmin. So that's going to be the responsibility that those IT support team will have. And what's going to happen is that when they try to add a responsibility to any user in the system, they should see only the custom responsibilities. So they should not see responsibilities like system administrator or application developer. So they should be able to see the ones that are specific for that organization. So the ones that are custom built responsibilities. So they can only add those responsibilities to any user. So this I felt was a pretty realistic requirement. In one of my clients, they had something like that where they were restricting the responsibilities that could be added to any user. So I thought that would be a good example. So now let's go back to our custom system administrator responsibility called custom sysadmin. And let's see what responsibilities we can add. So we will search for the user and we will try to add a responsibility. So we'll click on this. Let's do a wildcard search. And you can see that, okay, oh my God, I can see everything. I can even see system administrator. So what's going to happen is that IT support team by mistake can give me system administrator in production environment, which is not desired. So let's use the power of form personalization to limit this list of responsibilities that are appearing. So again, the goal here is to change the LOV associated with the column. Now, what do we do here? So we have to build a query, right? We have to change the select statement because this list that we are seeing here is being generated by some kind of a select statement, right? So we need to change that select statement and have our new restriction and then add that new modified select statement to the list of values for this field. Now, if we have any background with Oracle Forms, you know that for a field, for an LOV, there's something called a record group. The record group will have the query that the LOV is going to use. So what we have to do is basically we have to change or modify the query in the record group. So let's see what we have done here. Now, there will be certain things. Now, this is an example where this whole thing will get out of hand of the business analyst, because in most, if the business analyst doesn't have a decent technical background, he or she won't be able to do this. So let's see what I've done, and then I'll explain why I have done that. So go to personalize. Again, the display custom responsibilities only for custom sysadmin. Now, right now it's not enabled. That's why you're seeing everything. The condition again is the trigger event is new form instance. And here we have a context. So you can go through the document about the overview of form personalization to understand what a context is in here. But right now, like I said, the objective of this thing, of this personalization, is to restrict responsibilities only within the custom sysadmin responsibility. So if you have sysadmin, the real one, you should not have any restrictions. So that's why this is restricted to this responsibility only. For more information, please check out the document on the overview. So let's see in the Actions tab what we have. Now, like the first time, you're going to have something called the built-in. The type is built-in. So, I mean, you can just see, you can select different types and see what the values you get in here, because this list or this section changes based on the type you have selected. Now, if you see here, this is a built-in, and the built-in type is create record group from query. So this is my new query. So let's open this in edit field. So what we can do here is just take a better look at the whole query we have. Now we have this select statement. Now select responsibility name, application name, responsibility ID, application ID from whatever. So this is the query that I have changed. Now see, this is the piece that I have changed, that the responsibility name like CC%, like in this scenario, the CC any responsibility that starts with CC is actually a custom responsibility. Now, the obvious question would be like, how did I come up with this query? You know, so I mean, why am I going to write something like this? I can understand. So let's go back again to our screen here, and let's see what we see here, right? So we see two columns. One is called responsibility, the other is called application. We don't see 4 columns here, right? Here I'm seeing that, okay, we have, this is my new select query, which has responsibility name, application name, which are fine, which appear on my the small window that opened when I clicked on the list of values. But I also have 2 more columns in there, the responsibility ID and application ID. Now, whether it's going to be 2 more, 3 more, or whatever number of more columns that you need to pick up, it's very restricted. The objective here is you have to have the same number of columns that the original record group has. Now, there is no way of knowing what the original record group has from the form unless you open this form in Form Builder. So now that's where the business analysts need the help of the technical or the development team to build this query for them. So let's see what we have done to get that, and let's close this for the time being, and let's see what's the name of this form. So once you go to help again, so you go to help about Oracle applications, and you will see the name of the form. So this is the name of the form, FNTSCAUS. So you need to go to your Unix directory to grab this form. So, and once you grab this form, you actually have to open the form in Form Builder. So let's go to my Form Builder. I have actually got the form from my Unix directory. So you can ask your DBAs to get any form, any FMB, just give them the name of the form and they should be able to give you the form. And once I have the form, I open the form, and if you have any prior experience with forms, you should know that all this list of values are coming from the, like I said, record groups. So this is the important thing. So you need to go into the record groups, and again, you have to find out, okay, which record group is the relevant one. So in this case, I can find out, okay, so this is the responsibility. That's what we are trying to get. So we click on the responsibility, and then you see what the query is for that list of value. So once you have that, so you can copy it to any of your Toad or PL SQL tool. And then once you have that, you add your extra piece, and that's how you know what columns are being used by this list of values or the record group. So if you do not have the exact same number of columns as the original record group, your personalization won't work. So it's very important that your record group query select columns are the same as the one that are there in the standard record group. That's the record group that's inbuilt with the form. So you make sure that you have the same columns. You can change your where condition, and that's exactly what I've done. So we have added, this is the existing one. The only piece that I've added in here is the responsibility name, like my CC%. So if we go back again here, that's exactly what we're gonna see. In the actions and the built-in, so this is my my new query. Now once this query is built, you have to give a new name to the group, and this is your new record group. So basically what you're trying to do here is you're creating a new record group with a new query that has the same number of columns as the original record group, and you are trying to feed this new record group to your item. Okay, so this is my record group already built. Now I have a second action that I need to do. So first I built my record group. In the second one, I use the object type as LOV. The target object is responsibility. The property is group. That means the record group. So I am overriding the group with my new record group, which is this XX responsibility group LOV. So I am overriding the group of my item called responsibility. So that's why the object is LOV. That's what I'm trying to override. The target object is responsibility. The property is group name. And this is the new value. So once I do that and enable that and save it, again, make sure you have the context in this case. So we close this. You need to get out of this form. And see, right now we are in the responsibility called custom sysadmin. So this change should take place. So let's search for a user, and let's try to add some responsibility to this user. Let's do a wildcard search, and let's see what we see here. We only see the ones that are starting with CC, which indicates that we are only able to add responsibilities which are specific for our company, custom responsibilities. So our goal is met. Now again, we need to make sure that if we go to a different responsibility, it's not behaving the same way. So let's go to our standard system administrator responsibility, the same form. And if we try to add responsibility in this form, we should be seeing everything. And that's exactly how it is. So we see all the responsibilities that are defined in the system which are active. So with this, what we have done is we have restricted the list of values for one specific responsibility by using the context and assign or the new record group to that item specific for a particular context or responsibility in this case. So that's about it for this tutorial. We will definitely have more tutorials on form personalizations. It's an endless area. You can come up with a lot of stuff. We will definitely talk about menus and zoom functionality in the future tutorials. So till then, I hope that this will give you some idea of what form personalization is and what all you can do using form personalizations. So thank you for your time, and I hope I will come up with more good video tutorials, and I hope you enjoy learning Oracle apps. Thank you.